Jesus and the disciples sailed to the region and met by a demon-possessed man from the town. This man had not worn clothes or lived in a house for a long time, but had lived among the tombs. And when he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell at his feet, shouting at the top of his voice, "What do you want with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I beg you, don't torture me." Jesus had commanded the evil spirit to come out of the man. Many times it had seized him, and though he was chained hand and foot and kept under guard, he had broken his chains and had been driven by the demon into solitary places. Jesus said, "What is your name?" "Legion," he replied, because of the many demons that had gone into him. And the demons begged him repeatedly not to order them to go into the abyss. Jesus let them go into a large herd of pigs was feeding on the hillside. And the demons begged Jesus to let them to go into them. And he gave them that permission. When the demons came out of the man, they went into the pigs, and the herd rushed down the steep bank into the lake and was drowned. The word of the Lord in the house of the Lord. Now I spent 2 weeks off, so this is like starting fresh and brand new. Elijah was scared to death because they were out to kill him. He really ticked off the queen and the king. He made their prophets look like fools and put them to death, and they no longer like him. I mean, you get a reputation like that around town, it's hard to make friends. But he said, "I have labored diligently for my God." And God said, "You're okay. Go back the way you came. Because next week we're going to read some more and follow his journey." But God expects us to work diligently for his cause. He expects us to work happily for his cause. He expects us not to just give up because some things might go badly. He expects us to put out some effort. My efforts sometimes aren't all that diligent. It's easy for me to shortchange some of my, quote, worship practices because nobody's looking over my shoulder to see what I've done. You don't know how I spent, I was going to say waste, but I better not do that. You don't know how I spend all my days. They're not all on the golf course, But you trust that I'm working diligently for the Lord, and I hope he trusts too that I am. But like Elijah, some days I get scared. Some days I'd like to retreat into a cave and just not have to deal with anything. But unfortunately, or fortunately, life goes on. Life continues to happen, not just to me, but to those around me. And because we as a church have chosen to be active and we've chosen to confront the situations around us, I'm put to the task every once in a while of having to make decisions for you. You don't get to decide who gets a gas voucher because they finally have found a job but they can't get there because their car's out of gas. You don't get to decide who I help with an electric bill because it's pretty hot without air conditioning. You don't get to decide those things. You've decided that since I work diligently, I love that word, it's a great theological word. Since I work diligently for the Lord, that you trust me to make those kinds of decisions. But I wonder, am I a good place to place your trust? Have I done all of the things that I need to do? Have I prepared myself? How often do you pray for yourself? I see people counting up the hours. Isn't it easy sometimes to say, oh, it's a good day, I don't need to pray. Or it's a bad day, it isn't worth praying. But Elijah prayed diligently. He followed all the rules. He did all the things that he was supposed to do. And God empowered him to do more than anybody else around. And I just wonder sometimes how much I could get done if I just worked as hard as Elijah had. If I had just committed myself a little more. If I had just prayed one more time. If I had... Doesn't that scare you? When you start saying if that many times in your life. If only. Oh, what a terrible phrase. If only. And it comes about no matter where I am. Even on the golf course. If only I hadn't hit that one that bad. Never if only I hit it that good again. So Elijah did what he was supposed to do, and he went into hiding afraid for his life. But God said, trust me, I'm sending you right back out into the battle. I'm not sure. Yeah, I am sure. I'm sure that if God sends me into one of these battles, one of these times, tomorrow or the next day, when I have to face a situation, I trust that He will lead me to make the decision you want me to make. Jesus confronted a man who was demon-possessed, who was nasty to the nth degree, who was not fit to be around people. And they kept him locked up if they could, but he was too strong for them. And he drove the demons out of the man. We don't run into this kind of a situation in our place in time and in civilization. We don't have people chained up in the tombs to keep them away from polite society. We just drug them. Give them more Xanax more and Valium. Got a great story with Valium. My wife is very claustrophobic. Don't tell her I get this. She had to have an MRI. How many have had an MRI? Pleasant situation, right? Especially if you're very claustrophobic. They gave her a Valium and told her to take it half an hour before you. Well, half an hour meant it was just before we drove. And she reacted really, really well to Valium. I had to pull her out of the car and pour her into a wheelchair. Don't tell her. I loved it, but she was not real funny. How many, we don't chain up people because they're a little weird. We don't chain them up and we try not to lock them away. But how many people have we imprisoned with our current medical standards? They're a little weird, so let's give them a pill. Now they're excited, so let's give them a pill to calm them down. Oh, now they're too calm, let's give them another. What is that? Oh, well, anyway. I took a diet. One time I was going to lose weight and I took a diet pill. Not a good idea. I could function with about an hour of sleep, which meant I was awake a lot more than my wife wanted me to be. We don't lock people up. We don't chain them up. We don't confine them to the tomb. But we segregate them from society because we can't deal with them and we don't want to deal with them. All Jesus gave to the man was His grace and His love. And that's what He expects us to do. To diligently seek out those places where the love and the grace of Jesus Christ can make a life different. Not just our life, but the lives around us. The people who need to know that Christ loves them. The people who need to know that there is peace in knowing Christ. So yeah, Elijah worked diligently. He did everything God asked him to do, to the point of putting people to death with the sword. Now, God hasn't called on me to do that yet. But I may get a concealed carry permit over. What is it that God wants us to work at so diligently that we can be the servant that Elijah was? Who is it that we need to visit and take away the onus of having to be chemically controlled so that they can understand that the love and the grace of Jesus Christ is what is the best medicine for everything we got? I don't have answers for some of these questions I'm asking you. I wish I did. I think Aaron and I saw examples of not having answers for even questions that weren't even asked yet. So we're seeing situations develop that are at a level of church that we're not right now. But we're at a level of church. Notice I'm not saying the word religion. It has nothing to do with religion. But we're at a point in the church now, here, where we need to really examine what it is that we do next. Oh, we've got a food pantry, and that's wonderful, and we've got mission studies going, and we've got things going on. But are we diligent in our efforts to fulfill what God wants us to do? And are we bypassing those people who we need to see? Are we bypassing those people who need us to care? Are we bypassing people who don't know the love and the grace of Jesus Christ? And if so, how do we find them? How do we convince ourselves to put ourselves on the line for other people? Oh, there's mission trips, there's local missions, the WOW, W-O-W, I don't even know what it stands for, that they did Friday. They gave away hope to reach 500 families. It's wonderful, but it's a one-time and every once in a while. Christ calls upon us to be diligent. That means every day. That means every opportunity. That means often when it isn't convenient. But He will reward us with the peace that only He can give. We can be more tranquil than my wife on Valiant. Because He doesn't ever want us to be chained to those things that control not only our bodies, but our minds and our lives. He wants us free to worship. And let the worship of Christ be the drug of choice that sets us apart from the world and puts us in a position to touch the world in ways that we can't even imagine until He opens our eyes and our hearts, that we might be like Elijah, diligent in our labors for the Lord. And even diligent and hardworking as he was, he feared for his life. And God said, trust me. Oh, how many times have I heard God say to me, trust me, and I said, well, but I'll help you out. I'll just get started on the project. I won't go very far, I'll wait for you. No, I pray for help and then take off and do it anyway. Be diligent in your love of Christ, that you might be set free from the tombs and the chains that bind you, whatever it is that holds you back, from being totally free to appreciate the love of God, the grace of Jesus.